All right, today we're going to be solving the question two within this data structure tutorial exercise for Stack. So this is the second part of the first part that I published like an hour ago, I believe. So let's get right into it. So again, we're going to need our class from here for Stack. So let me go ahead and take that. And we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so write a function in Python that checks if parentheses in the string are balanced or not. Possible parentheses are these couple, and use the stack class from the tutorial. Okay, so we have to use is underscore balance. That's our function. So let me go ahead and bring that in here. And then here we're going to bring in some text, and there we go. So what we basically need to check is we need to check if a parentheses, right? Doesn't matter which type, if it has a closing bracket which corresponds with an opening bracket. So how can we do this? How can we do this? Well, let me just refresh this here and we can get started. So first off, I'm going to create a stack as always, right? We're using the class stack. So there we go. We have that initialized. Now what we're going to do is let's think about this, okay? So I'm going to have just some sample input, right? So this is just some sample input here. All right, and the sample input, let's say, is something like this. All right, so we have this, this, and this. So basically, what we need to do here is we need to give a true or false value, and we give a true or false value, excuse me, when each and every one of these parentheses has a corresponding closing parentheses. So how can we use a stack, or how can we even solve this? Well, what we can do is we can actually bring these into the stack, right? So we can bring this into a stack. So this is what I'm going to write right now is going to be part of the stack data structure, right? So we'll iterate over each one of these, right? So we're going to add each and every one of these uh, into the stack, right? And when we add it, we want to look at the final the most recent item. All right, so pretend I add this, right? In the first case, right, we're not going to look at the item, the recent item, most recent item, because there isn't a most recent item, right? The stack was empty. Okay, so we added our first element, then we add the second element. Now within this element, what we're gonna do is we're gonna backtrack. All right, and when we backtrack here, what we want to see, so this is the most recent item, right? This is where stack comes into play, because stack, the whole data structure was designed to access and delete and modify the most recent or last item. So we check our last item, and if that item is a corresponding end, right? So then we would do it. But and actually in this case, we wouldn't even check the final item, and that's because you can see that this is an opening bracket. What we want to check for is we want to check for a closing bracket. So it would look something like this. So pretend now we add the next element. So this is our next element. So this element is a closing bracket. So therefore, we can look at the previous member in our stack, and it needs to be the opening bracket, right? And in this case, you can see it is the opening bracket, and therefore this is a valid pair, and we can take it out of the stack because it's valid, right? So then therefore, when we add a next member, we don't account for these two because they're already valid. We don't need to account for them anymore. So now the stack will look something like this. Okay, just look like this because these two were validated. And we validated by looking at the closing bracket and then going back one, like looking at the most recent item. And if that recent item matches the opening bracket for that specific bracket, we know that they're valid because you have an opening bracket and a closing bracket, which are the same type, right? So now what we can do is we're going to get this, and then we're going to get this over here, right? And then again, we're going to check the most recent item, and you can see both of these are valid, so we can cross this out. Now in here, you can see that there's some values which are like a plus b or something like that. For in those cases, we're not even going to check for them. We only check for this like this logic when we see a closing bracket. So that would be in our case over here. That would be this one, this one, and this one. All right. So let's go ahead and code this out. So we have our stack. What we're gonna do is for each character in text, what we want to do is we want to say if this character is this, the ending, right? What we're gonna do is we want to check for the. Actually, there's a better way of doing this. What we can do is actually we can make a hash map, because a hash map would map out relationships. So we can map out the relationship based off of the closing parentheses to the opening parentheses. So these two are related in that sense, right? So something like this. So let me just say over here valid underscore paren. Can't even spell parentheses. Okay, there we go. So there. And so then this is going to be a brackets like that. And then it's going to have that. There we go. So there you go. So this is mapping out the relationship between the closing brackets and the opening brackets, because we can always determine, like, based on the closing bracket, if we go back to the most recent item in the stack, right? We can always determine if it's the opening bracket, because we can, it's already in our stack. But we can never determine the closing bracket for the next value. We can't guess that, right? Because it's not added to our stack right now. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna say for character in text, if character is in valid parentheses, we're good to go. And what we're gonna say is, well, we need to check for the parentheses first, right? We want to make sure that whatever parentheses it is, it makes sense. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the parentheses, and that's gonna be valid parentheses character. So if character equals and or my bad. So what we need to do now, we got the parentheses. So what we're gonna do is we need to get the next the most recent value, so the last character. So let me get that. So last underscore character, and that's gonna be stack dot peak, right? Because I'll get us the last character. And so what do we do with this? Well, what we want to check is if last character equals the parentheses. This is the opening parentheses, so I'll say opening underscore parentheses. So if it does, what we're going to do is we're going to do stack dot pop. Otherwise, and then we're going to do continue. And otherwise, if this all is not true, then we're going to do stack dot push the character. And at the end, if stack dot size equals 0, then we can return true. Otherwise, we have to return false. and then now I'm going to just print is balanced, and let's go with this here, and let's see. So cd data structure, cd learnings, oops, I misspelled that, cd learnings, cd data structure, cd stacks underscore learning underscore exercise, and then cd um 2, oh whoops, okay, now we're in the directory with the Python file, so let's go ahead and run it. Okay, all right, so what we want to do is we want to just say and stack dot size does not equal 0. There we go. Perfect. So this way it doesn't run if we have if the stack is there's nothing in the stack, because if there's nothing in the stack, then this peek method would give us an error because there's no index to even check for, right? There isn't any indexes or any elements within the stack. All right. Cool. So it gave us false. Let me go ahead and try something else. This should give us true. All right. All right, because of the so okay. I know why this happened. Let me just see if what I think it is correct, and then I'll explain what's happening. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the thing was, okay, the reason why this gave us false before was because when I actually ran the execution, right? Let me like refresh this. So when I ran this execution, and this was not on the if statement, it was in the for loop, right? It basically the a and b that you see in here, the a plus b, the a plus b value, they were added to the stack as well. I'm gonna just use s. So they were added to the stack as well, and therefore they ruined my sorry, my logic over here, because then the last character would reference to these values instead of the parentheses themselves, right? So that therefore we only add them to the stack if they are part of the parentheses, right? If they're part of the parentheses, or else do not add them at all. But then the issue with this is that what if I have something like this, right? So I think in the character in parentheses value, a value would take into account like the keys and values too, I believe. Let me just see here. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Okay, so here I need to check if the so over here I need to check if it's any of these. So if it's any of these values here. So what I'm gonna do is if um character equals, let me check for multiple okay, so character so here I'm just gonna return, instead of doing this, I can just return stack.size equals 0. So if it does, it should be true. Otherwise, it should give us false, right? Just to make the code a little bit more cleaner. And then we can just print these balance part. So here I need to basically say if character. So I'll say if character in valid parentheses here. And stack size 0, but the push needs to be modified. So I'm gonna say here elif. I'm gonna do another if statement here. I'm gonna say if character in, and then I'm actually just gonna add all of the values here like that. There we go. So if it's one of these, then we're gonna do that stack about push. All right, and this would be an elif, right? No, do an if. This would be an if. Like so. I don't like the nested loops though. I mean like the nested if statements. That's kind of tweaking me out right now. But let's see if this works. Let me give a true example here. Okay. Nice. So it still doesn't work. So if character in Okay, I'm gonna try using a set instead. Maybe that'll work. Oops. There we go. So let me try this again. Let me print the stack so I can just see what's happening. Nice. So stack dot peak. Let's see. Let me use a thing like that. And let me just create a new thing called all show. So I'm just gonna return self.container. This is just for now. I'm gonna remove that bit. But now I'm just gonna over here. It's gonna return stack dash show. Okay, I see. So it didn't work. Oh, right, because okay, I have to add continue here. So that way it terminates the program in that instance. There we go. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I can go back to using the DQ here, and then we don't need the show method. Okay, let me clear this up. Perfect. Let me go ahead, and I'm just gonna bring this back to my screen here. Okay, let me see if I was supposed to just do it like this, like put in a string, because I swear I thought you could do this. Like when I was first learning Python, this worked. I'm 100% certain. I don't know for sure though. Let's see. Yeah. See. All right. Perfect. So let me just bring the practice stuff. Okay. Sorry, the testing. And let us print all of this so that we can actually see it. Okay. Print. Okay. So true, false, true, true. Okay, that's good. False, false, true, true, false, false, true. Okay, perfect. Yep, it works. There we go. So there is the program done. A little bit of debugging there. I want to see if there is a way to avoid this. Like if there's a way in here, right? In here to avoid here to avoid the if statement here. Like I'm not fully sure if there's some sort of way like that because it would just make things so much more better. Like I just don't like using nested if loops. I mean if conditions. So like I don't know. Like I'm not sure. But for now this works. This is pretty good. Um and yeah, that's it. A little bit of work there I had to do, right? Some logical thinking, some critical thinking. Good to put that into use. But yeah, don't give up. Definitely don't give up. This is one of my realistic videos, of me actually trying to solve it with you guys. And yeah, there it is. Let me just go ahead and push my code. I'll actually use the command line. Why not? Feel a little bit more like a programmer. So this would be added second question. And then let's just go ahead and push that. There we go. Okay, what I'm gonna do is right now is I'm gonna actually bring this back here. I'm just gonna go ahead and take this, and I'm just gonna copy that. Questions.md. There we go. Added questions for reference courtesy of, and then it's this person. There we go. So now if I were to go on my GitHub, right? This is part of my LeetCode solutions because it's part of my learnings. So I go into my learnings here, go into data structures, go into stacks learning exercise. you'll see my work for 1. So that's for question 1, right? And then you'll see my second questions solution first. Okay, let's see the solutions though for that. So if I just go into my questions, it's in here. I just want to see how they did it. Maybe they did it differently than us. Okay. Okay, I see. So they didn't use a if statement, basically. So sorry, they basically didn't use hash maps. We used our hash maps to basically map out the relationship between the characters and the corresponding open parentheses. I feel like our way was is pretty good though. Yeah. Yeah. And so the only reason why we couldn't add this thing in here is because there's also like the other characters that we can expect, like A, B, C, D. So if we add it in here, like the else statement in here, then basically we couldn't have the opening brackets being added then, right? So yeah, this makes sense. Okay, I'm good with the solution. So it's gonna say testing for correctness in my program. Yeah, that's it.